What is up? Welcome to No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. It is week 11 in fantasy football. That means you have 3, maybe 4 games left to get into the fantasy playoffs. These are those crucial weeks. Still dealing with some bye weeks, still dealing with some really ugly football, but there has been some great football, and hopefully we are going to make some great picks tonight to help you guys make the fantasy playoffs. Let's get into it. Welcome to No Punt Intended, presented by Club Fantasy. No Joe Zolo this week. So for the third time in as many days, you get Ryan, you get Josh. How are you doing tonight, my friend?
Oh, doing great. We had some intro issues on Tuesday's show, and what do you know? We started to have them today too, but we figured out the issue last time, so I corrected it.
Exactly. I was so happy to see it pop up and show me that we actually had time span.
StreamYard's going a little, and I'm like, just stop. We don't need this Tourette syndrome going on here.
We want nothing messed up whatsoever. Josh, I feel like it's about once a month this season where Gator and Joe abandon us, and it's just me and you for 3 straight days. And I think by Thursday, we just don't even want to see each other. We're just done with it.
Yeah, when after Wednesday, it's like, fuck you, dude. We'll see you one day.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure Josh and I don't text each other. When this happens for a whole Thursday, we don't text each other. We don't talk. It's like, just give me my space, man. Just give me my space. Hopefully, you guys are well on your way to the fantasy playoffs, sitting at, 5 wins, 6 wins, 7 wins, ready to make that final push. But we are here tonight to help get you there. As a reminder, if you like what you're hearing, hit that like button. If you want to hear it again next week, hit that subscribe button. We go live every Wednesday at 9 p.m. amongst all of the other days we go live. Plus, if you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please hit that follow button. We appreciate your support on all platforms. If you feel like your question is being ignored tonight, I promise you it will get answered. But if you want to jump the line on YouTube, we do offer Super Chat. And if you want to talk fantasy football when this show is over, or fantasy baseball, fantasy basketball, fantasy UFC apparently is a thing. If you want to do any of those things, jump into our Discord. It's absolutely free. Link in the description of this video. I'm sure Josh is going to share it with you in just a minute. We see everybody in the chat. Joseph, Caesar, Keenan, welcome back. Glad to see you. You guys have been riding with me and Josh for 3 consecutive shows now. We very much appreciate it. Josh, let's get into some NFL news and notes. And I think this is the largest news and notes section you've ever given me, Josh. So I'm going to run through it and we'll try to talk about the fantasy relevant stuff. The shocking news, certainly for my rankings I had to update today, Arondé Gadsden is a full participant in today's practice. Doesn't even carry a questionable tag right now. Very strange. Brock Purdy, an aggressive limited practice on Wednesday. Sure. Graham Gano placed on IR if you're still playing with kickers. For tomorrow night's game, the Patriots have already ruled out Ramondre Stevenson and Kayshon Boutte. The Jets have already ruled out Garrett Wilson. Looking at some other teams, Bucky Irving and Chris Godwin both got in limited practices today. However, Darius Slayton did not practice. Lamar Jackson did not practice, and they are saying it's due to knee soreness. So it's not a veteran day. Keep an eye on that one. CJ Stroud's still in concussion protocol. We're probably looking at Davis Mills again this week. Isaiah Pacheco did not practice. Calvin Ridley returns to practice. Jameis Winston elevated to QB2 for the New York Giants, meaning if Jackson Dart misses this game with a concussion, Jameis Winston will be the starter. Marvin Harrison has an emergency appendectomy. He is ruled out for this upcoming week. And then Zay Jones tore his Achilles. He's out for the season. So Cardinals are in trouble at wide receiver heading into this week. The Jaguars have opened the 21-day window on Brenton Strange and Brian Thomas Jr. return to practice. Josh, I think for fantasy, I think we need to go all the way almost to the bottom of this list. Jameis Winston likely to start for the Giants this week. This is a Giants team that Darius Slayton did not practice today, dealing with that hamstring. Doesn't quite have the deep threats that you're used to on a Jameis Winston football team.
Remember in the offseason when Jameis Winston signed in New York and we all said, Malik Neighbors to the fucking moon.
That's what we were praying. We were praying for this day.
Oh, man. What could have been? What could have been? Yeah, definitely doesn't have the same luster. I mean, he's not throwing deep to Wan'Dale Robinson. I can tell you that right now.
Now,
and Darius Slayton continued to deal with hamstring problems. And I mean, honest to God, with Lil Jordan Humphrey now heading to Denver, I don't know who the third wide receiver. Jalen Hyatt was talking about wanting out. Like, he's basically been in the doghouse.
Being in upstate New York, I get a lot of Giants like articles. People were pissed that on this team, you're starting, or not starting, but activating Gunnar Olszewski, but leaving Lil Jordan Humphrey and Jalen Hyatt as healthy scratches, and now it's cost them Lil Jordan Humphrey.
Yep.
Do you at least, you have to activate Jalen Hyatt. If you're going Jameis Winston, you have to activate Jalen Hyatt.
You hope that it's good news for Jalen Hyatt, but I don't know. He's something's not going on. I think it's just, lack of playing time, lack of development. There's been a lot of things going on there, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe they'll split out Tyrone Tracy wide and we get a lot of receptions there. That's the hope, but hopefully he finds Theo Johnson.
I'll let you take your pick here, Josh, but there's one last thing I think we need to talk about is just the people out for the Thursday night game and what that means. So Ramondre Stevenson and Booty out probably means we're looking at Stephon Diggs and Matt Collins again. Garrett Wilson out. This is kind of what you've been mentioning for the last couple of days, Josh. Are we going to see the Adonai Mitchell audition, basically?
Yeah, and I think they have to, right? I mean, outside of Tyler Johnson, they really don't have very many other options at the wide receiver position. So I think, we'll see more. Mason Taylor is going to get his targets, obviously. They need to utilize Breece Hall more in the passing game, which, considering Garrett Wilson left early in last week's game, they still only threw the ball to Breece Hall once. So that doesn't make me feel confident in Breece Hall's receiving upside.
But boy, did he do a lot with that ball.
Exactly, and that's what he's capable of doing. So hopefully they have a game plan in place that gets, Adonai Mitchell more involved. Because again, like you threw him into that Sauce Gardner trade because you need help at wide receiver.
Yeah.
He's a cost-controlled asset. He's under contract for 2 more years on a rookie deal. You clearly need depth at wide receiver, so let's see what you got.
And then, Josh, looking at these other stories, what's jumping out at you right now?
Honestly, most of them look like veteran rest days. I mean, I threw the Graham Gano kicker stuff on there for you. It's Younghoe Koo, but I think it's great to see that Bucky Irving and Chris Godwin finally practiced.
Yeah,
because I feel like they haven't actually practiced in like 4 weeks. So that's potentially good news. I'm still not counting on week 11, but hopefully this is positive signs heading into week 12 and worst case week 13.
Yeah. All right, Josh, the chat is popping. Let's get to some of our friends. Joseph throwing stones as the show starts. What if he doesn't want to hear the Ryan and Josh duo again once the trio back? We prefer when the trio is here as well. Let's be very clear. I certainly prefer it. Hosting 3 times in 1 week, it's not rough. My bag. Let me tell you, I like to be lazy and just listen to Joe talk his shit on Wednesday nights. And tonight, you guys got to hear my raspy ass voice again. But Joseph does come at us with a question. What duo? Thought you were against duos tonight, Joe. What duo would you start if, assuming everyone plays? Pearsall, Brian Thomas Jr., Tez Johnson, Trey Tucker. He knows Tedero McMillan has a bad matchup, but are we benching him?
Definitely Tez. That's the starter of this group. If BTJ plays, I'm going him over Tucker. I don't love this matchup at all for Trevor Lawrence and the Jags offense. We'll get to that here in a bit. But of this group, he is arguably the most talented. Kind of the same thing I said last week with Breece Hall. It's a bad matchup, but all it takes is one play, and that one play happened. The same thing goes to Brian Thomas Jr.
Yeah, here's what I'm going to throw at you because of my hatred. Hatred's such a strong word. My distrust of Brian Thomas Jr. If Pearsall were to play, I see them as equals.
I wouldn't even go that far because look what happened when we finally got Garrett Wilson. 19 snaps and he's done for again. Like, I want to see him actually be healthy on that knee before I trust Pearsall week.
Well, if you go with that, am I assuming that Tedero McMillan is a part of this question, Joseph? Because it's Tedero McMillan and Tez Johnson. If we're just picking 2 of these, don't scrape the bottom of the barrel just because Tedero has a bad matchup.
No. It seems like he's not benching Tedero McMillan.
Okay. I just want to make sure I read that right. I'm going to agree with you then. But again, I'm with you on the injury part of it as well, because the same thing could happen to Brian Thomas. So
it could. I feel like a knee is a lot bigger issue than a foot, just me personally. But
all right. South, would we trade Tyler Warren and Ricky Pearsall for T. Higgins? They have Brock Bowers. I'm going to assume this is a redraft question where you do not need a second tight end and Bowers has already had his bye week. I'm making this trade, Josh.
I think you can do better than T. Higgins for someone like Tyler
That's
Warren.
Fair too.
But something that we have discussed in the past when it comes to Tyler Warren, while he's been great statistically, he has not had any of these boom type weeks that we want from a number one tight end.
Oh, he's steady.
Exactly. He's steady Eddie, right? That's kind of what you get out of T. Higgins right now. Pearsall is just a throw in.
Yeah, it just depends on if he's struggling at wide receiver.
I'm fine with this trade. Like, to me, Tyler Warren is pretty even with T. Higgins, and Pearsall is just kind of
I like what you're saying, though. Instead of settling for T. Higgins, this is not a very pro T. Higgins show, though. Obviously, he's been balling out with Joe Flacco. Instead of settling for Higgins, look at the other tight end needy teams in your league and see who you can fleece them for at wide receiver. Don't just take this trade because it's the one offered to you. If that's the case, go out there and shop it around a little bit. I'm sure you have some time before your deadline. Keenan has Lamb and JSN. Who's the third wide receiver he is starting this week? Troy Franklin, Quentin Johnston, or Jameson Williams? Jameson Williams, I know, is in with Philly. So
yeah, it is not Jameson Williams. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah,
we will definitely get to that in a little bit. I like QJ, honestly, against Jacksonville. Ever since they traded Tyson Campbell, that pass defense has gotten explicitly worse, so bad. I mean, look, they gave up 20 unanswered points to Davis Mills and the Texans offense. Like, Justin Herbert is going to absolutely feast this week, and I think QJ is going to be a big part of that.
Yeah, out of this group, it's definitely QJ for me as well. Troy Franklin, Kansas City has been tough on defense, and Philadelphia takes away wide receivers like Jameson Williams with zero issue for the most part.
Yeah.
We buy homes near you. 6-point passing touchdown. Which streamer do we like the most this week? Purdy, Brissett, Rodgers, Tua, Mariota. Spoiler alert, 3 of these guys are on my list. Aaron Rodgers is my stream of the week. You're going to hear about that in about an hour when I do my stream of the week segment. But for me, Josh, from this list, it's Aaron Rodgers, and it's not particularly close. I'm actually not. Brissett made the list, as did Tua. I'm not particularly in love with Jacoby Brissett this week. So.
Yeah, I was going to say, to me, this comes down to Rodgers versus Tua. Washington's defense has been so bad. Their saving grace is that Dan Quinn is taking over play calling.
Yeah, you brought that up.
Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. It's also on foreign soil. So, those types of games tend to be really wonky anyway. So I think it's a lot easier to trust Rodgers in this matchup. That said, for as bad as Cincinnati's defense is, I think they're actually worse against the run. They're bad against the run. You could see a lot of Jaylen Warren this week, and that really neutralizes Aaron Rodgers' passing upside, which makes me want to trust Tua a little bit more. For as good as Achane has been, he's equally as effective in the passing game. So I think even if Achane goes off, that could be a direct result from Tua. Whereas if Warren goes off, it's not likely to be because of Rodgers, because he hasn't been as involved in the passing game of late.
I agree with everything you said, except my counterpoint is 4 touchdowns on them 3 weeks ago. Aaron Rodgers did. So again, betting on history to repeat itself like that usually bites me in the ass as well. Keenan is going to start Colston Loveland over Hunter Henry. He's not sure if that's a good move with Booty out, but would you drop Henry for Corum when knowing that you have Colston Loveland? He does have Kieran Williams. He's thinking about handcuffing him as we head into the playoffs, Josh. This is the time of year where you start grabbing your handcuffs to get ready for the playoffs.
Yeah, I'm very much okay with that. Hunter Henry's kind of devolved, so to speak, into a streaming option. If you feel comfortable starting Loveland, he's already had his bye week. You don't need a second tight end. As Sam Holt mentioned on last night's Sideline Banter, it's cuffing season, people. protect your assets.
Yep. No, I think it's a good move. Spoiler alert, Colston Loveland, my stream of the week tight end, and I do have him ranked ahead of Hunter Henry this week. So I like
if people were tuning in for your stream of the week option, we've already lost our audience.
The audience is gone. Nobody cares. Thankfully, we get a lot of people watching the shorts. So that's why we still do it. We Buy Homes has to drop someone for that QB streamer, Josh. Are we dropping Brian Thomas Jr., Trey Benson, or Kareem Hunt with the news that Pacheco is missing? Though with the practice at least.
Man, this one's tough. Look, I will say what I said on Wiretapped yesterday. I think Benson is fool's gold. I really do.
To feel that way. Tough schedule, you pointed out yesterday.
It is a really tough schedule. I don't love it. Quite frankly, he has not been activated yet either. That's the other side of it. So for all we know, he doesn't play this week anyway. Hunt has been very involved in the red zone. He's scoring touchdowns. I still believe in Brian Thomas Jr. simply because of the Travis Hunter injury. Like, they have to figure something out how to get him involved. For me, Benson's the odd man out here.
I was going to say the same. I was going to only add this. Is there a world between now and the playoffs where you're going to start Brian Thomas Jr.? I don't know if your team is stacked,
and that's fair,
at one position or the other. If there's a world where if you're just done with Brian Thomas Jr., I don't see him as like such a huge get for another team in your league right now. Not that the other two are either, but I do agree with Josh. Trey Benson is starting to feel like fool's gold. Still, the reports were not all that positive when I looked him up this week, Josh. I do have him as a waiver ad, but the fact of the matter is this: if you can't afford to hold him on your bench, don't add him. I'm going to agree with Josh here.
Go ahead. The other side of it too is that, look at it in terms of this. If I drop one of these guys, who is less likely for the entire league to rush to grab? That answer might be Kareem Hunt. So if that's the case, maybe you wait and do it like Sunday morning.
Yeah, Sunday at 11:59.
And then you have a better opportunity of grabbing your streamer and then making sure Hunt, isn't on somebody's roster, or Benson or whomever you ultimately decide to drop. Absolutely. And then you try to get a shot at getting them the next week kind of thing.
Yeah, really good point. Woods Girl, what's up? Has 2 leagues where they have the Seattle defense. In those leagues, they're carrying 2 quarterbacks for both leagues. Stafford with Flacco backing him up, Darnold with Brissett backing him up. Are you dropping either of those backups, or are you just starting the Seattle defense, Josh?
No, there's not always a direct correlation in starting a defense and then playing the opposing quarterback.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes, you want that defense to get turnovers, sacks, all those things. So Stafford, first off, isn't turning the football over. I think he has 2 interceptions on the entire season.
Josh, I'm going to just interrupt because maybe I'm wrong. I think Woods Girl is generally worried about starting the Seattle defense this week anyway. So the question is, would you drop these backups to go get one? I get what you're saying with the Stafford versus your own defense. I don't.
Gosh, okay. Yeah, that's the second part. Drop someone for an alternate defense.
Yeah.
I would be okay with that. I don't think you have to worry about that in the league with Darnold, because obviously Darnold is quarterbacking the Seahawks. But with Stafford, sure, maybe if you feel more comfortable, because maybe Seattle's not going to create as many turnovers against a offense
I don't
right
love
now
the Seattle defense this week, but they are a really good defense. My thing is, Josh, when I look at these 2 backups, I think Woods Girl can survive without Brissett, and Flacco is probably 2 weeks away from losing his job. If you're not comfortable, I'm good with dropping both of those guys.
Yeah, I would be fine with it as well. Seattle's already had their bye. Stafford, I believe, has already had his bye.
Yep.
So really, you don't need a backup.
Yeah.
Go grab that alternate defense. Here's the thing, though. For starting Seattle while playing Stafford's not losing points because of sacks.
Exactly. And so that's Josh's first point he was going to make, is there's no direct correlation between don't start your defense against your quarterback. Both can be good. So Joseph, with the de facto wide receiver one on a horrible team. Which de facto wide receiver one on a horrible team should they keep on their bench? Trey Tucker or Adonai Mitchell? This is a tough one for me.
I wouldn't even say Trey Tucker is the de facto wide receiver one, because that seemingly is Tyler Lockett right now.
And that's kind of what gives Adonai Mitchell the more interesting thing. Even if you don't consider Tyler Lockett the wide receiver one, Brock Bowers is the wide receiver one.
Correct, yeah.
There's no Brock Bowers in New York. Adonai Mitchell is it at this point, unless you think Tyler Johnson's just going to...
Yeah, I mean, Mason Taylor's going to see targets. But again, I mean, this offense isn't going to breed a 10, 15 target wide receiver the way that Bowers can command targets for the Raiders. So I would be okay taking a flyer on Adonai Mitchell just to kind of see what happens. Because if just, again, and I've said this all season, if Justin Fields can't get the passing offense going, he's going to see the bench. He was this close to getting benched before Tyrod Taylor had his knee issue. So if he continues to struggle, by all reports, Tyrod Taylor is healthy. If Fields struggles, Tyrod Taylor's coming in. So I think that ultimately is going to benefit Adonai Mitchell. So I would be more willing to bet on Mitchell here than Tucker.
So Josh, you made me question something here when you were talking. Obviously, everybody wants to hold on to Trey Tucker for one game, and we all remember it. But Josh, I went and looked. Of his 107 fantasy points, he scored 41 in that game. He's the wide receiver 31 right now. If you take that game away, and I understand that's not how fantasy works, but if you take that game away, he's Cooper Kupp on the season. And I've been telling people to drop Cooper Kupp for weeks now. So,
and that's the thing is, like, I mean, and we talked about it 2 weeks ago on Wiretapped. If Alvin Kamara's name is not Alvin Kamara, are you rostering him? No, because he's been fucking terrible this season.
Yeah.
It's just what it boils down to. People fall in love with what you did for them 4 or 5 years ago, or in Tucker's case, 10 weeks ago, 9 weeks ago, whatever it is.
Yeah. Diggs or AJB this week, Josh? This one's tugging at your heartstrings a bit. I know in my rankings, I still have AJB slightly ahead, but the more I think about tomorrow, the more excited I get about Stephon Diggs.
I think there's definitely a chance that Diggs can go, 5 for 50 and a touchdown.
I would argue. I don't have AJ Brown ahead. I actually have Diggs ahead. So okay. I'm going Diggs.
I will say that I do think Stephon Diggs has the safer floor.
Yeah.
I don't think that's a question. I think AJ Brown at this point is, I hate to say it, he's Jameson Williams. He's boomer bust. You might get, 2 targets and 0 catches, or 3 targets and 2 catches for 12 yards. You might get, 4 for 120 and 2 touchdowns. Like, it could very well happen. And, we've seen it before. Him being really vocal tends to lead to more targets. But, I honestly, I think at this point, like, he's criticizing Kevin Patullo to a point where Kevin Patullo is just like, and not saying Patullo by name. And Patullo is just like, well, fuck this guy. I'll give it to Smitty. And that's kind of what they're doing. So, I mean, they're basically, the Eagles right now are treating AJ Brown the way that the Cardinals treated Marvin Harrison Jr. last year.
Yeah. Just using him wrong.
Yep.
Let's knock out these 2 trade questions, Josh, knock out some segments, and then we'll come back to the chat. Steve-O has back-to-back trade questions for us. Would we trade Debo for Alvin Kamara? He needs a running back for week 14. Personally, Josh, I'm not mad at this because I'm kind of down on Debo as of late, which will come up.
Yeah, I mean, Debo, snuck in the late touchdown, kind of saved his value. I mean, I still think that, again, for 3/4 of most games, he's nothing. You're dealing with Marcus Mariota at quarterback. If you need a running back, then I'm absolutely fine with this deal. I feel like you could probably get better than Alvin Kamara, but if that's the only offer on the table, so be it.
Yeah. Yep, that's where I am too. And I think we can answer this next one pretty quickly. Would you trade Jake Ferguson for Sam Laporta? I would not. You just suffered through the Dallas bye week. I'm not moving off of Ferg. I know he was ugly the game before the bye week, Josh, but I'm holding on to him.
Yeah, I'm holding on to Ferguson. He's a higher volume target guy. Sam Laporta right now, he's been steady, but traditionally he makes his money in touchdowns. He's only scored 3 this season.
Yeah.
Not really anything all that exciting. Give me the guy that's a top 5 tight end.
Yep. All right, we're going to knock out a couple of quick segments here, folks. We will be right back to the chat. If you've tuned in before, every question will be answered. You have nothing to be worried about. We start the show off with the thumbnail, the smash play of the week. It is my pick this week. Josh, you took Amon-Ra St. Brown last week. He finished as the wide receiver 18. Josh, I noticed something weird. I was the one who updated the show sheet today to get us ready for this week. The last 2 times I've updated the show sheet, we alternate every week. Smash play of the week. 4 weeks ago, it was running backs. The running back you picked and the running back I picked finished in the exact same spot. I didn't even have to change it. I just changed the name. This time, last week, I picked Justin Jefferson. He was the wide receiver 18. This week, you pick Amon-Ra St. Brown. He was the wide receiver 18. That is twice this season you and I have picked players that in back-to-back weeks have finished in the same spot.
You telling me I'm taking a tight end next week?
Very strange. So you have to pick a tight end next week because the thumbnail, my guy, is Trey McBride. I think Trey McBride is just the smash play of the century, not just this week, but as long as Jacoby Brissett is the quarterback. And that's where I'm going to start my little speech here. Jacoby Brissett has been pretty good for fantasy, but he has been great for Trey McBride since week 6 when Jacoby Brissett took over. McBride is averaging 23 PPR points per game. The tight end 2 in that span is averaging 15 points per game. The tight end 12 is at 12 points per game. Trey McBride is almost doubling up the worst tight end in your league right now with Jacoby Brissett at quarterback. In those 4 games, he has 46 targets and 5 touchdowns. This is my favorite stat. If he had only played those 4 games this entire season, Trey McBride would still be the tight end 11 in fantasy right now on just what he has done in 4 games with Jacoby Brissett. But enough about what he's done in the past. Let's talk about why I love him this week against San Francisco. He dropped 15 fantasy points on them back in week 3. That was with Kyler Murray at quarterback. If you look at the LA Rams conglomerate of 4 tight ends that they played against San Francisco last week, those 4 tight ends combined for 33 fantasy points against the San Francisco 49ers. If you take out week 1, the Niners are the 11th worst team against fantasy tight ends. I think Trey McBride easily cracks 20 points yet again this week, Josh, on his way to another tight end 1 finish.
So you know who plays for San Francisco that's really good at covering tight ends?
Fred Warner, who was on the IR.
Exactly. And Fred Warner played in week 3 when Trey McBride played against the 49ers. So without Fred Warner,
they can't cover tight ends.
You might be looking at another 30-point week for a tight end. I will say, I think it's hilarious how, like, you had some people that were all on board the Brock Bowers tight end 1 train. And you had some people who were like, you know what? I think Trey McBride has that case. And I made that case in the offseason. I said, I think there's a legitimate shot that we're not talking about the guy who could very well end up being the overall tight end 1.
I want to put it the way you put it, Josh, because it opened my eyes. Where Brock Bowers was being drafted, there was no room for upside, only downside.
Yep.
Trey McBride, simply by going around later as the 2, there was an upside for Trey McBride that didn't exist for Brock Bowers. And that was where you opened my eyes. And when I say open my eyes, I kept Brock Bowers ranked as my tight end 1. Do not get me wrong. I drafted Trey McBride in most leagues because he just made more sense. So
yeah. And when you look at points per game so far this season, Trey McBride leads the pack, and not just leads the pack. He's 2.4 fantasy points more per game than any other tight end.
Yep.
He right now kind of is creating that positional advantage.
Yeah. Kid's good. Plain and simple. Josh, we don't just do a player of the week. We do a game of the week. And you got a fun one that I was a little nervous that I was going to put my stamp on later in the show, but you get to take some of that pressure off me right now. So
yeah, I wanted look, there's a lot of really good games this weekend. A lot of like top end NFC matchups. But I'm looking at specifically the Chicago Bears at the Minnesota Vikings. These 2 teams played earlier this season and combined for 51 points. When you look at the quarterbacks of this team, J.J. McCarthy for the Vikings, clearly still figuring it out. Caleb Williams for the Bears. Just when you think he figures it out, he regresses, but then he starts to figure it out again. All told, the seesaw effect of these offenses properly complements the seesaw effect of their defenses.
Yeah.
Both of these defenses give up a ton of big plays. Look at the wide receivers that J.J. McCarthy has for the Vikings. Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. Both of them are fully capable of getting downfield, breaking big plays, scoring touchdowns. When you look at the wide receivers and the talent on the Bears offense, Rome Odunze, DJ Moore, who had a goose egg last week, Colston Loveland, who had over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns 2 weeks ago. And Caleb Williams is not afraid to throw the football downfield. In fact, the last 2 games, Caleb Williams has had over 50 rushing yards. There is so much fantasy potential in this game that they might end up combining for more than 51 total points that they did during week 1. Yeah. I am all in on this matchup simply because people might be overlooking it when you're in the shadow of the Lions versus the Eagles, the Rams versus the Seahawks. Those are some big time games. Denver versus Kansas City. There's a lot of big games this weekend. And then you have a matchup like this, 2 teams sort of duking it out to stay in the hunt in their respective division. There's a lot of offensive potential for a lot of fantasy points.
And I think another thing that it has going for it, a lot of times when Caleb fails, it's because the weather in Chicago kind of surprises us.
Yeah.
Indoor game in Minnesota, this is just screaming speed and scoring, and I love that. I think it's going to be a good matchup, and it has a lot of the things I like. Multiple players on each offense that we need to pop. Namely, for me, Colston Loveland. I'm putting my name to him later on in the show. So, all right, Josh, let's get back to the chat. We got plenty of people with questions. Keenan says, "Who are we starting to flex? Debo, Woody, or Diggs?" Josh, I hate Debo this week. More on that later in the show. If it's full PPR, I'm going Diggs. If it's half PPR, I'm going Woody. I like both of them this week. I prefer Diggs, I think, though.
Yeah, I'm fine with that. Like I said, I do think that Diggs has the safest floor. I think you can pretty much pencil him in for a 5 for 50, and if he gets a touchdown, great. Yeah, Woody Marks has a great matchup against Tennessee. I think their run defense is not near as great without, Draymond Jones, I believe was his name, the defensive tackle they traded to the Ravens. Yeah. And again, I do think that Woody Marks, a lot of his role is very game script dependent. If Houston is winning, they're not having Woody Marks in the game. Like Nick Chubb is their closer. He's their rusher. Woody Marks is the guy that makes their offense more versatile. So if they jump out to an early lead, I don't think Woody Marks is going to be a large
Someone
lead.
did point out Woody Marks had his breakout game against this Tennessee defense. So it'd be interesting to see if he just has their number, if that's going to be something that continues. Megan dropped Hampton to pick up J.J. McCarthy. Yeah, to pick up J.J. McCarthy. Wait, are the Cowboys on bye this week? No,
that was last week.
Okay, confused. So this was last week, I'm guessing. Hampton to pick up J.J. McCarthy. Dropped Tracy to – okay, I see. So drop Tracy to pick up Hampton or grab Corum. Okay, hold on. So then hold JJ, drop him to grab Burrow or a second quarterback. Okay, so the question is, let's start with, they are able to drop JJ and Tracy because they already have Dak Prescott. Would you drop those two? First of all, go get Joe Burrow is step one. I'm not leaving Burrow out there in any of my redraft leagues, Josh.
No, and you shouldn't, honestly. I mean, I understand why people dropped him. I mean, he's clogging up a roster and unavailable for 3 months, and maybe the league doesn't have an IR spot. It's probably the same reason that Lamarian Hampton was dropped, right? Like maybe you have no IR spots.
Yeah, I'm guessing no IRs in this
right?
league.
So, I'm fine going and grabbing Burrow. I mean, really, at the end of the day, you don't need him if you have Dak, but
you don't want your
team. He becomes a trade piece, and you don't want your
playoff opponent
right?
to have it. Exactly.
JJ McCarthy, honestly, you don't need to hold for fantasy purposes at all.
So I guess, Josh, the question is: hold Tyrone Tracy in this new Giants offense, or go reacquire Omari and Hampton.
I don't think you need to reacquire Omari and Hampton.
We've been pretty much in lockstep on that we don't.
Yeah. But I am perfectly fine if you have Kieran Williams to go and grab Blake Corum, 100%. Yeah. Like, to me, you're not starting Tyrone Tracy. Protect your asset. Go get Blake Corum.
Yeah,
especially with how much they've been using Blake Corum this season.
For folks who have been following along with our waiver show, get ready to hear this for the rest of the season. Get your handcuffs. That's all we're going to be talking about on that show.
Yep.
Third Eye with the Travis Hunter news. How do we rank these 4 wide receivers rest of season? Alec Pierce. I almost said Pierce Washington. Parker Washington. Tez Johnson. Kayshon Boutte in full PPR scoring, Josh.
Rest of season.
Yep.
Probably Pierce, Boutte, Tez, and Parker. See, and you could probably convince me to flip Boutte and Tez Johnson.
Okay. I agree that it's Pierce. I made that very clear on our waiver show yesterday. I think Pierce is the best waiver wire addition at wide receiver. Tez got the cover because he's not on bye. If you need to start someone this week, the answer is Tez Johnson. But rest of season, I truly do think it is Alec Pierce. I think his role has become a solid thing in this Indianapolis offense.
Yeah, I mean, I like Booty. I think he's becoming a staple in that Patriots offense. I think the biggest issue is that their level of competition hasn't been great, in the sense that Drake May doesn't have to zone in on one player.
Yeah.
The way that some of these other quarterbacks have that go-to number one, right? So I think that's sort of what knocks Booty a little bit, because even if Drake May had to do that, that guy's going to be Stephon Diggs.
Yeah.
But Booty is their deep threat. Like, he is their wide receiver too. All of these guys
saw the value in that role last week.
Exactly. Yeah. So, and with Tez, again, I think there's a lot of value there. He doesn't have a single game this season over 50 yards.
No.
You know, so like, for as much as they're using him and he's scoring fantasy points because he is scoring some touchdowns, because again, Baker's going to sling it.
Yep.
I don't know that there's like exponential upside there. And
Josh, you made this comparison about 3 weeks ago, or it may have been Gator. He feels like Tank Dell in that, like, he's just this explosive guy, but he's so little, and you just don't know how long he's going to be able to keep doing it. I love the guy, but
I do too.
Woods Girl asks, Ferguson gets Las Vegas, Goddard against Detroit this week. And Josh, I messed around with Jake Ferguson a lot in my rankings before prepping for the show today. And I had moved him as low as tight end 7. And then I re-looked at it and I'm like, he's still Jake Ferguson. So I moved him back ahead of the pack, but behind Bowers and McBride. So he's still my tight end 3. I'm not going to go elsewhere. I'm going to stick with Jake Ferguson.
Yeah, I'm sticking with Jake Ferguson. I mean, Goddard is kind of becoming that second go-to guy in the passing attack, but largely his fantasy points have come from touchdowns, and he scored 7 so far this season. I don't know off the top of my head how stingy or forgiving Detroit has been to tight ends. Since week 6, they're middle of the pack. They allow about, on average, 6 for 61. That's since week 6 on the season.
They're 5 for 51 on the season.
Okay. I mean, so maybe, that's still a top 10 floor. I still think, because of the way that Dak throws the football, Ferguson has much better upside.
Yeah, I will say, this is going to sound weird though, but this is a team that gets beat by the touchdown from tight ends. Like, Zach Ertz only had 54 yards. Ben Sinnott found the end zone. TJ Hawkinson only had 2 catches. One of them was for a touchdown. So it could be one of those things where Goddard scores, but it's not a great game for him in the long run too. So I love this question. If you had to get rid of one thing in fantasy, Josh, would it be team defenses or fractional points for kickers?
I think with kickers, fractional points are a must.
Ooh.
Like, if they're kicking a 36-yard field goal, it should be 3.6 points. Like, that's the same reason why, when a wide receiver has 12 yards receiving, it's 1.2 points and not 1, right? We should treat kickers the exact same way. That said, kickers are not people, so I don't give a fuck. Get rid of kickers.
I was just going to say. So Josh says just get rid of kickers altogether. Story time, for those who don't know, I got my start in this industry, 7 years ago now, with the fantasy footballers, and I was the team defense. I wrote the articles on team defenses for them. Team defense will always have a space in my heart. I write the streaming article every week, which includes team defenses, and I don't include kickers. So if I had to choose between this, I'm not going to go with Josh and be like, get rid of all kickers. I love kickers. But if you have to get rid of one of the two, it's fractional scoring. I do agree with Josh, though. Fractional scoring makes fantasy football better. And it eliminates the chance it ties, which is always a good thing. So then Joseph comes back with Trey Tucker or Shamiri DK. And Josh, to me, this all comes down to whether or not Calvin Ridley plays.
Yeah, if Calvin Ridley plays, DK's back on the bench and just returning kicks. So,
yep.
At that point, I guess it's Tucker, but
that's what I'm saying. I don't want to really start either one of these guys.
Yeah.
DK is impossible to start if Calvin Ridley is playing. So,
yeah, I don't know. I guess my whole thing with Tucker is like we've seen people go out of this offense and him not have the upside. Whereas with DK, we've seen his direct, player above him go down and he produces. So yeah. I think that kind of lends itself to DK being the answer to this question.
I'm still going to say if Calvin Ridley is on the field, I'll go.
Oh, no, I don't disagree with that at all. Yeah. But again, I mean, you're dealing with a 30-plus-year-old wide receiver ahead of him. Like Tucker has that with Tyler Lockett. But when Jacoby Myers was out, he wasn't really producing either.
Let's also not pretend that Calvin Ridley couldn't get re-injured in the first quarter and this becomes DK at halftime.
It's a hamstring injury, people.
Exactly. As we've seen haunt some older wide receivers. 4K Towin, start Otten, Mark Andrews, or Theo Johnson, Josh?
Man, I really want to say Theo Johnson. Because I think you're going to see a lot of seam routes with Jameis there. Not going to lie.
I was just going to say Theo Johnson shot back up my rankings when I found out it was going to be Jameis and not Russell Wilson starting at quarterback.
Yeah. I think I'm still going to go Cade Otton, though. What do you have, 17 fantasy points last week?
Yeah.
Without the wide receivers, Cade Otton plays. I mean, unless we get news that Chris Godwin does, in fact, play this week, that's really the only thing that's going to knock Otton off the pedestal for me.
Yep. It's Cade Otton for me as well. Cade Otton's safe if you're playing for full out upside. Theo Johnson's super interesting, but go with Cade Otton. Woods Girl doesn't want to harp on the defenses, but is the Seattle defense safe to start, or are the Rams going to slaughter them? I don't know if it's going to be a slaughter. Josh, when I start my rankings with a base, kind of based on how people have performed through the season, Seattle is obviously very high up on that because they're one of the best defenses in fantasy right now. They fell down to 12 for me. So I would say in a 10-team league, you can probably do better. In a 12-team league, I'll start Seattle if I have to.
Yeah, and I think that's fair. I mean, you play a lot more with defenses than I do. Most of my leagues lately have morphed into dynasty leagues. And, I think I only have one dynasty league with a team defense. So,
and it's the one where he commissions folks.
Yeah, right. I that's kind of where I'm at. They're borderline for me. I think anytime even a good defense plays a good offense, the offense tends to win just because that's the way the rule book in the NFL has kind of morphed its, shaped its identity. It favors the offense, right? I think if Devontae Adams doesn't play, I feel a lot safer with Seattle. I will say that. But if Adams is in, go drop that backup quarterback, Woods Girl, and get a backup defense.
Juan Pena. Who is their QB1? Bo Nix, CJ Stroud, JJ McCarthy, Jacoby Brissett, Aaron Rodgers, Joe Flacco, or David Mills? Josh, obviously Aaron Rodgers is my stream of the week, but that's because Joe Flacco ain't available enough. The answer to this question is 100%. The QB1 since he took over, Joe Flacco.
Yeah, I don't know how you can sit Joe Flacco if he's going to target Jamar Chase 20 times a game.
Juan, I don't remember seeing your name before. It's a very good question. Josh, I realized as I was reading Juan's question, I should have made this my downside for the week so we could talk about it. I kept moving him down, and Bo Nix is my QB 17 for the week.
Woo!
I do not think he is startable.
Woo! Yeah, that's crazy.
I
mean, look, I get it. KC's defense is good. This is definitely going to be a big test.
And there's just other quarterbacks with better matchups.
Yeah. This week, so. Well, and I think too, like there's a lot of. It's like when Buffalo was like finally trying to get over the hump on Tom Brady and the Patriots. This is Bo Nix's moment right now. Like Denver right now sits ahead of KC in the division. KC has looked good. They had a little bit of a misstep against Buffalo, but they always lose to Buffalo in the regular season. Patrick Mahomes is still Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
And this right now, this is a psychological moment for Bo Nix. I don't want anything to do with that in fantasy this week, quite honestly. Like, I want him to show me that he is up for the challenge. Because if he can get over this hump, I will feel better about trusting his inconsistencies in fantasy going forward.
But to go back for you, Juan Pena, it's 100% Joe Flacco.
I'm not sitting Joe Flacco right now.
Yep. Cap for life. Haven't seen the name in a while. Welcome. Needs to start 2 wide receivers, Juwan Jennings, Wan'Dale Robinson, or Troy Franklin, and then we'll answer the tight end question. So who are we benching?
For me? Jennings and Wan'Dale. I'll sit Franklin.
Benching Franklin.
It's all touchdown upside with him. He's not really a downfield threat. He's Stephon Diggs, basically. It's a 5 for 50 kind of thing. But for Franklin, it's more like 4 for 40.
Yeah.
That's why I think the floor is a little bit lower. And again, KC's defense, I think he's got the toughest matchup of the 3. Tight ends, Njoku, Fannin, or Knox. Probably go Fannin just for volume.
I would go Fannin, assuming it's PPR. I'll be honest, I have not made the Dalton Kincaid is out adjustment to my rankings yet to know where Knox is going to go, but it's not going to be high. It seems like they run these weird ass offenses where this Jackson Hawes or whatever steals all the touchdowns from the tight ends anyway. Yeah. If anything, I think he's the better streaming option for Buffalo because they love to call his number inside the 5. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
We Buy Homes needs to start 2 wide receivers and a flex. So we're really just benching one of these folks. T. Higgins, Emeka Egbuka, Rashee Rice, Jay Jettis.
I'm about to say something that I never thought I would ever say.
Bench Justin Jefferson.
I'm benching Justin Jefferson from this group.
I will say.
I'm not sitting Egbuka, not against that Bills trash-ass secondary.
Nope.
I'm not sitting Rashee Rice. They get him way too involved.
Nope.
Patrick Surtain's been banged up, but Rashee Rice runs a ton out of the slot. The way they move him around, he's not going to see a lot of Surtain anyway. And T. Higgins, you can't sit him. I'm sorry. Jefferson has been, as the kids would say, pretty fucking mid this season and not giving you what you paid for on draft day. I'm fine sitting Justin Jefferson if I have the opportunity to start Higgins, Egbuka, and Rice.
Josh and I agree wholeheartedly. You cannot bench Egbuka and Rice. I would go Jay Jettis just because 1, I have a personal vendetta against T. Higgins, and 2, Justin Jefferson's on my upside this week. So I gotta stick with the brand. I have him 1 spot ahead of Higgins in my rankings. Juan Pena back with us. We need to do a wide receiver 1, 2, 3, and a flex. So we are starting 4 of these guys. Adams, Debo, QJ, Myers, Addison, Parker, Hollywood, Tez. And then at running back, he has Zach Charbonnet, or would he go with another one of these running back or wide receivers? So let's start, Josh. You need to start 3 wide receivers this week.
Adams, a definite. Addison, a definite.
And I think QJ,
and then I would go Tez over Charbonnet.
Josh and I are in full agreement. That is your starting lineup. So it is Adams, QJ, Addison, and Tez Johnson. Those are the 4 you are starting this week. Juan. Harry Brooks needs to pick a flex spot. Parker Washington, Tyjae Spears, Tony Pollard, never Bill, so no. Tez Johnson, Tyler Algier, or any of the Giants wide receivers. It's full PPR, Josh. I'm going Wan'Dale Robinson.
I would as well, yeah. And Tez being a close second.
Yeah. We Buy Homes. Last question of the night. We appreciate you tuning in as you always do. We Buy Homes. Travian Henderson or Kyron Williams. Sweet Lord, is this rest of season or this week? I'm not benching either one of these guys, Josh.
Yeah, I don't want to bench either one of them, honestly. I get being worried about Seattle's defense. Look, at the end of the day, don't sit your studs, man. Like, all it takes is one play.
I have these guys 9 and 10, Josh. I do, for what it's worth, We Buy Homes. I have Kyron at 9 and Travian at 10, but I'm not benching either one of these.
Yeah, I can't bench either of them. And really, at the end of the day, who do you really think is going to score a touchdown? It's Kyren Williams.
Every time.
That's literally his role in the Rams offense, to score touchdowns. So,
yep.
You know, Henderson can rack up yards. He broke 2 long touchdowns against the Bucs. It's very possible that happens against the Jets, but give me the guy that has a history of scoring touchdowns, and that's Kyren Williams.
Yep. Still a lot of questions to be answered. We're going to knock out a segment. It's our upside segment. It'll be a short one. We'll get right back to the chat, folks. I will remind you, if you like what you're hearing, hit that like button. If you want to hear it again next week at 9 p.m. Eastern, hit that subscribe button. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, hit that follow button. If you want to jump the line with your chat question, we do offer super chat. You throw us a little bit of money, we'll answer your question right away. And finally, if you haven't already, join our Discord, completely free. We do a lot of fantasy football talk in there throughout the week. Upsides, downsides. These are our hot takes for the week. We each pick 2. Josh, I'm going to get this out of the way right now. Last week, we sucked. In fact, there was, out of our 6 things we do, 2 upsides each and 2 downsides each, Joe got 1 downside. That was the only correct pick out of the 3 of us for the entire week.
So look, we go bold with these people.
We go bold. Let me be very clear, and you're about to hear it. So, Josh, get us started. You got 2 upside picks. Jaylen Warren, a top 10 running back against Cincinnati Bengals, and Jalen Waddle, 18-plus fantasy points in Spain versus the Washington Commanders.
Yeah, I've talked a little bit about Waddle and the Dolphins going against that trash Washington secondary. So I'm going to touch on Jaylen Warren, top 10 against Cincy this week. In week 7, Warren went for 158 total yards, scored 19.8 fantasy points. Over the last 2 games, the Bengals are allowing an average of 40.6 fantasy points to running backs. Averaging 40.6 per game, okay? Including 206 rushing yards per game. They've allowed, since week 6, the second most fantasy points per game to running backs. And on the season, the most fantasy points per game to running backs. Warren has yet to hit the 20-point fantasy mark this season. I'm willing to bet that happens this week because I don't think Rodgers is going to throw for 4 TDs this week. One of them can get to Jaylen Warren. Because let's face it, 158 total yards in their first matchup. He scores a touchdown, he's over 20. That's all it took.
I'll even give you 2 touchdowns, Josh. Just one needs to be a passing touchdown from Aaron Rodgers. Now, I think Jaylen Warren, I think a lot of people got scared off of Jaylen Warren, Josh, because we saw Kenny Gainwell have that really nice matchup while Warren was out. And then they used Gainwell a lot the very first game Warren was back. Warren has slowly just taken over this backfield in the last 3 to 4 weeks. So I love that.
Yeah, 100%.
As mentioned, I also went 0-2 last week. I'm sticking with bold. Every week, I give you guys a 2-touchdown prediction. We are 10 weeks into the season. I have gotten exactly 2 right, and that was when I just kept picking Jonathan Taylor over and over
Usually
again.
A good bet, Ryan.
Usually a good bet. He's off this week, but there's someone who scores touchdowns almost as good as Jonathan Taylor, and that's Josh Jacobs. He's playing the New York Giants. I'm taking Josh Jacobs to score 2 touchdowns this week. But for my bold prediction, Josh, I always like to look at my rankings, and I am going to say that both Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison are top 24 wide receivers this week. Last week, Jalen Naylor spoiled fantasy football. Everybody wanted Addison. Everybody wanted Jefferson. Instead, it was Jalen Naylor. But I think J.J. McCarthy, hopefully a smart kid, gets it figured out this week, and he gets to go at defense against a defense that allows the 3rd most fantasy points to wide receivers over the last 5 games. When these 2 teams faced off in week 1, Justin Jefferson scored 15 fantasy points, but Jordan Addison missed that game. That was a suspension game. Since then, Chicago has gotten progressively worse against wide receivers, allowing more and more points. And when you look at last week, a lot of folks are worried about what we got from Jalen Naylor. Jalen Naylor did what he did on 5 or 6 targets. In that game, Justin Jefferson had 12 targets. Jordan Addison had 11. J.J. McCarthy is targeting these guys. We just need to see production and against a porous Chicago defense in Minnesota, in the Dome, on turf, Josh. I think we're going to see a much better week, and I think both these guys are startable fantasy assets, top 24, both of them this week.
Yeah, it lines up with my game of the week prediction. I love this. Jefferson can very easily rack up a ton of yards. Addison scores touchdowns. That's been their season to a T.
Yeah. All right. Joe didn't give us picks this week, which means we're back to the chat for you folks. Let's get back into it, Josh. Joseph, we starting DeAndre Swift, Jalen Warren, or Sam Laporta at the flex? And are we starting Drake May or Jalen Hurts? So let's start with Josh. We both agree it's Jalen Warren in his flex spot.
It is 100% Jalen Warren, yes.
Josh, Drake May feels unbenchable. He is, I believe I moved him ahead of Hurts as my QB2 this week. Now I got to look at my own rankings to verify. I did. Drake May is my 2. Actually, Hurts moved down to my 4 because I like Herbert a lot this week. I'm going Drake May out of these 2 quarterbacks.
Drake May is the QB1 in fantasy football.
Yeah.
You're not sitting Drake May.
Congrats on your riches. Just know that you have a great insurance policy if anything goes wrong.
Yes, 100%.
I
want to preface, that's coming from an Eagles fan here, people. Yeah. You're starting
to call you VV so I don't completely destroy your name. Hopefully that's right. Someone offered them Troy Franklin and Theo for Zach Ertz and Jordan Addison. He does not need a tight end, but what do we think of Troy Franklin Troy Franklin versus Jordan Addison. Josh, I still prefer Addison in this deal. I think he's the best player in the deal. So especially if you don't need tight end, I'm going to keep the Jordan Addison side of things.
Yeah, I have zero issue siding with Jordan Addison. Franklin's been a good story. Targets have been there. Production's been meh. Like, it's all touchdown based. I like Addison so much more as a weapon. Give me Addison.
Josh, why are our viewers stacked at running back?
Love it.
I'm not benching Kyron or Rico this week. I'm guessing you have like Christian McCaffrey and you're choosing for your RB2. Josh, I mentioned this on our last question that Kyron's my RB9. Well, guess what? Rico Dowdle is my RB8. If I had to choose between these two, Rico Dowdle should eat against the Atlanta Falcons. Even though I like the Falcons defense in that game, I don't think they're going to slow Rico Dowdle.
Didn't Rico already destroy the Falcons defense once this year?
I believe so.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, and Andrea, please, if you're still listening, correct me, but I know she plays in an 8-team work league. So this could very well be a question from that. I mean, if you have these types of champagne problems, it's
no. Rico Dowdle was held in check by the Atlanta Falcons back in week 3. It was before the takeover happened.
Okay.
30 yards. He did score the only touchdown that game, though, even as the backup. So
yeah, Rico Dowdle's got a new lease on life, and that lease is Chuba Hubbard free. So. Oh, man.
It is the league you think it is, Josh.
Yeah, I think you got to go Rico. It's such an easier matchup.
Yeah.
Damn.
We'll talk about this.
It's PPR, too, which lends itself more to Rico because he catches more passes than Kieran.
Yeah, they simply refuse to throw the ball to Kyron Williams.
Yeah.
Who's going to produce more fantasy points in the playoff weeks? Purdy or Burrow? It's Joe Burrow. I'm sorry. Like, first of all, I don't trust Brock Purdy with the playoffs on the line at all. I barely trust Joe Burrow. I'm going to be honest, Josh. If you ask me right now if I would rather have Joe Burrow or Joe Flacco starting for the Bengals, I would say Flacco for fantasy. Like, why fuck up a good thing? I get why they're going back to Burrow.
Yeah.
But I'm nervous.
And $55 million a year.
Yeah, I get it. I'm nervous, man. I'm nervous. But it's Joe Burrow. Take the offense that has T. Higgins and Jamal.
I was going to say, give me the offense that has the fucking weapons. Like, right now, that's the Bengals. Like, yeah, CMC's playing out of his mind. He's basically contributing, our wide receiver 1 production on top of, RB1 production. Like, that's how good he's been this season. But Purdy doesn't have any healthy wide receivers.
Yep.
And he doesn't have a Jamar Chase. So, yeah.
Josh, I think this is the first time since we started doing Stream of the Week as a part of the show that questions have popped up about all 3 of my Stream of the Week people before we actually got to the Stream of the Week. My thoughts on the Atlanta defense are they're one of the very few streamable defenses this week. I did not like a lot of the teams that are available, which is actually going to be illustrated in our next question. But against the Panthers, I do think Rico Dowdle is going to have a fine day. I do not think Bryce Young is going to have a good day. And that's what Atlanta is a funnel defense. And I'll bet on a running back to beat my fantasy defense when I think they're going to sack Bryce Young 4 or 5 times and probably pick him off twice, Josh.
Yeah, Bryce Young has been so incredibly inconsistent at the quarterback position. Certainly not what I had hoped for heading into the season.
Yes.
Dude, this is crazy. When you look at fantasy points per game, guess where Bryce Young ranks among quarterbacks? And I'm taking total games out of the equation.
Yeah, I'm going to completely guess 23.
Bro, 37.
Jesus.
37. He is averaging 10.8 fantasy points per game this season.
Terrible.
Like, absolutely atrocious. He can't see over the line of scrimmage. Thank God he's got a 6'5" wide receiver to throw to.
It's the only thing you can see out there.
The only thing you can see. Like, yeah, this is not shaping up well for Bryce Young heading into 2026. I can tell you that. And the Falcons defense finally learned how to sack the quarterback.
Yeah, 29 sacks this year puts them, I think, 10th out of the entire league.
Yeah, I figure they've got to be at least top 10. And that's the thing, is that you make your money on sacks and turnovers. And, if Carolina is smart, which they have been of late, they're leaning on Rico Dowdle because he's shown that he can tote the rock. That's what they're doing. They're funneling it through him. And if Atlanta can't stop him, their sacks go down too at the end of the day because Bryce Young's not dropping back to pass. but we know that they're going to have to throw the football.
Yeah, they're not going to.
So that's going to lend itself some opportunities for the Falcons defense.
Yeah, it's not going to be a Justin Fields 12 passing game or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, look, I know you're, again, way more in tune with defenses. I think they're very easily a top 15 defense. I'd say maybe top 10. But again, I think their ability, the inability to stop the run, Carolina's ability to lean on the run limits their ability to rack up sacks.
Josh, for someone who doesn't follow defense, you are absolutely right. The problem is the matchups this week suck for defense. So they're actually my defense 6 this week, but that is more on the backs of I looked at the teams I trust, the offenses I trust defenses to start against, and there aren't many. And that kind of brings us to Joseph's question, Josh. Streaming sucks this week for defense. Dallas, Pittsburgh, or Miami, Josh, you hit this on the head when I alluded that I wasn't mad about flexing Dallas. And you said you stop starting bad defenses. Plain and simple. I don't care how bad the offense they're playing is.
Yeah, I will say the plus side for Dallas is I believe they activated Overshawn this week. They're the defensive end.
Oh, yeah.
So if he's not going to be limited in any way, that's going to help that Dallas pass rush immensely because it's been non-existent this season. Pittsburgh still has the ability to get to the quarterback. They're going to give up points to Cincinnati. I think when you're looking at the ability to get sacks, it's Pittsburgh, in my opinion.
So it's Pittsburgh for me as well, Josh. And I actually have them as my defense 11. Again, a lot of shitty matchups. So this is where the good defenses kind of stand out. Dallas sucks. Miami sucks. And even though they're getting their shit together, Miami sucks. Pittsburgh is a good defense. They just have a shitty matchup. Joe Flacco can get sacked. He can turn the ball over. I'm going with Pittsburgh if I have to choose between this not great group of defenses. And then, Josh, because I shit on Bo Nix, Joseph has a question. Does that put Jacoby Brissett, Jordan Love, or JJ McCarthy in play? And it absolutely, for me, Josh, puts Jordan Love in play. I wasn't sure about this question earlier. I think Joseph asked this on Monday or Tuesday, and we asked him to come back, Josh. As I sorted things out, Jordan Love stats out as my QB 12 for the week. I have him well ahead of the rest of this group.
Yeah, I mean, let's not forget the Eagles defense is really fucking good. Like,
yeah.
The Packers did just lose Elgin Jenkins, one of their offensive linemen, which, again, not going to help Jordan Love stay upright, considering Dallas has a pretty mean pass rush. But nobody's covering Christian Watson in that secondary. Nobody's covering Romeo Doubs in that secondary.
Yeah.
I think Jordan Love has the ability to at least throw 2 touchdown passes, and I can't confidently say that any of these other quarterbacks can.
Absolutely. Megan back with us. Running backs, Aaron Jones, Rico Dowdle, Woody Marks, Kyle Monangai. We need to start 2 of these folks, Josh. It's obviously Rico Dowdle.
Yeah, it's obviously Rico. Honestly, I'm going to go Aaron Jones over Marks. Well. He's kind of taken back that starter role, which was really strange because it looked like Jordan Mason was taking it over before Aaron Jones got hurt. Now that Aaron Jones is back, they're like, oh, hey, yeah, we remember you. You're really good at carrying the football.
Yeah.
So, yeah. And again, the matchup lends itself. I'm going Jones and Dowdle here.
Yep, that's exactly who I'm going with as well. At wide receiver, we're starting 2. Lamb, Rice, good Lord, London, and then we get to flex, I'm guessing 1.
We're flexing one of them, yeah, 100%.
So, obviously, it's Lamb, Rice, and London, and you're sitting Teteroa McMillan.
That is 1,000% true.
Yeah, you can't bench any of the rest of those folks. Congratulations on a great team there. Drone! What do we think about the A.J. Brown drama, Josh? What did he say? And he said, if you have me in...
Yeah, so AJ, here's basically the gist of the story. Okay. A.J. Brown was on a Twitch stream, and I believe it was with his brother or something, and he made a comment about, if you have me in fantasy, just drop me or trade me or whatever. Basically, he does not have any faith in this Eagles offense right now. And he was... after practice today, he was at the locker room and they were talking about, some of his comments from the stream. And, he's basically come out and said that he's not calling for the ball, saying that, not getting me the ball is why this offense isn't working. This offense just isn't working. We're putting too much pressure to get bailed out by the defense week in and week out. If you get everybody involved and actually put together a competent game plan, this offense can be the best in the league. It's one of the most expensive offenses in the league. Yeah. So it should be one of the best offenses in the league. And A.J. Brown is one of the best wide receivers in the league. Kevin Patullo just doesn't know how to draw up a fucking route tree for wide receivers. That's the biggest issue. And I think that's where A.J. Brown is coming from. Yes, I want the football. I'm a competitor. I know what I'm capable of doing with the football in my hands. I put up over 1,400 yards receiving each of the last 2 seasons. I think I know what I'm doing. Your offensive coordinator can't figure out how to get me the fucking football. It's not rocket science.
Josh sounds as frustrated as AJ.
Yeah, Brown. If offensive coordinators can figure out how to scheme open guys like Puka Nacua, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase, AJ Brown should be able to get the ball as well. It's not hard.
Yeah. Have a great night, Megan. Enjoy PTA. Thanks for tuning in, and of course,
go Birds, baby.
Josh, let's take a quick break from the chat. Get back into the show sheet. We're going to knock out our downside picks. Last week, as I mentioned, was not a great week. Joe got one right. The rest of us did not. Again, these are bold picks. Josh went
I was close on mine. I was close
you did.
On mine.
You were. Josh went really bold for his first pick. Trevor Lawrence under 12 fantasy points. It's not the one you're going to talk about, but Jameson Williams outside the top 30 against your Birds.
Yeah, this is pretty easy for me. Look, Jameson Williams has scored over 16 fantasy points in 3 of his last 4 games. All 3 of those performances, he's been inside the top 28 wide receiver. But this is what Philly does. Philly takes away your outside threat. Yep. Amon St. Brown runs mainly out of the slot. So he's going to see a lot of Cooper DeJean. Running outside, you get the Quinyon Mitchell treatment.
No bueno.
On the season, there's only one cornerback that allows less separation per coverage snap than Quinyon Mitchell. And that's the reigning defensive player of the year, Patrick Surtain.
Joe would be so mad that you just busted whatever that stat was.
He clamps down wide receivers because he has 4.3 speed, plain and simple. Guess what Jameson Williams has? 4.3 speed.
Yeah.
He can get to it. Dan Campbell can call all the plays that he wants. He can get Jameson Williams as involved as he wants. You want to target him? Cool. Those 3 games that he did great, 6, 7, and 7 targets. Awesome. Fantastic. You know how many he's going to catch? Like 1 for 9 yards.
Yeah.
Because that's what Quinyon Mitchell does. He is on his way to an all-pro season at corner, and Jameson Williams is not going to have the capabilities this week to get inside your top 30. This is flat out a fade Jameson Williams week.
There you go. For mine, Deebo Samuel, not a top 25 wide receiver at the Miami Dolphins, and no touchdown for Mr. RJ Harvey against the Kansas City Chiefs. I think everyone's really excited that Harvey might start that game. Kansas City has been brutal against running backs. However, I'll talk about Deebo Samuel. Miami just shut down Buffalo, and while the Buffalo wide receivers weren't terrible, now Miami gets to face Marcus Mariota at home instead of having to face Josh Allen. Washington has no running game. Miami is going to be able to focus on Deebo. Miami doesn't do well against tight ends. I think Zach Ertz could have a really nice game here. I think Deebo Samuel is the one who's going to suffer. But more importantly, Deebo is already suffering. Don't look at his top 25 ranking right now and think that that's a good thing. He is the wide receiver 44 since Washington came out of their bye week. Miami gives up the 4th fewest fantasy points to wide receivers on the season. And in fact, on the entire season, only 1 wide receiver has crossed 15 fantasy points against them. That was Garrett Wilson like over a month ago. They have done really good at limiting wide receivers' fantasy production. I don't see Deebo Samuel being the person to break that streak.
I've been down on Deebo for years now.
Yeah.
You get no argument from me.
Yeah. I was most taken aback by his recent performance to see that wide receiver.
Yeah, I mean, he caught the touchdown late this past week, but outside of that, like he really
done nothing.
Done anything.
Yep. Back to the chat. New name, Neil Patel. Welcome to the show. Lamar Jackson or Drake May this week. Neil, we're not being dismissive. Drake May is the QB1 in fantasy. You're not benching Drake May. Love Lamar Jackson. Cannot bench Drake May, certainly against a depleted Jets defense. Correct, Josh?
Yeah, I actually have this same conundrum in our 8-team league, research league. Right now, I have Lamar in, but with the knee issue that popped up in practice, I would much rather just play it safe and go Drake May.
Yep.
Especially because he plays Thursday, Because if the knee gets worse, now you have to replace Lamar, right? Like, just play it safe. Go Drake May. You're not losing by going Drake May.
And Baltimore's already shown a willingness to sit Lamar down, so you can't play that game come Sunday.
Correct.
Josh, I don't know. Are you in the Guillotine League?
Yeah, so this is the Guillotine League that Jay set up with our Discord. Yes, Jamar Chase went for $800 of $1,000 fab budget after this week. As he should. So earlier this season in another Guillotine League I'm in, I put roughly about $800 to go get Amon-Ra St. Brown because my wide receivers were A.J. Brown and Marvin Harrison Jr. And there was a lot of inconsistencies. Yeah. Straight up, you pay up for superstars like Jamar Chase because they are difference makers. And this team got chopped. Why? Cincinnati was on a bye.
Yep.
That happens.
That'll get you.
Like,
nope. I wouldn't have been surprised if it was the whole 1,000 or if that was all the only 800 that person had left. I think.
And the way that league is structured is it's 2 starting wide receivers, 2 starting running backs, and only 1 flex.
Yeah.
So like you don't need to, stack up like 5, 6, 7 wide receivers.
Nope. You need to have 7 great players.
Yeah. You need 7 great players. That's it.
Michael traded Jake Ferguson, Derrick Henry, and Caleb Williams and Christian Watson for Lamar, Calvin Ridley, Justin Jefferson, and Kyle Pitts. He's asking in the chat, is that a W or an L? Obviously, Lamar is a
big upgraded quarterback. Ridley's useless.
It's a downgraded tight end.
You're losing depth at running back.
So you're losing. So you traded Henry for Ridley. And so let's just keep Ridley out of this. Ferguson to Pitts is a downgrade.
Yeah.
Caleb to Lamar is an upgrade. Is it a big enough upgrade for Derrick Henry to Justin Jefferson? Those two kind of feel like a wash this season, Josh. Just kind of like boring.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
So I think Lamar upgrade is worth the Ferguson downgrade. I truly do. Ferguson has been good, but he hasn't been Trey McBride good.
Yeah, I think this is a pretty even trade. I mean, it really just kind of depends on your roster construction, what you feel you needed. Maybe Derrick Henry was maybe you struck gold with Rico Dowdle. Yeah. A late round pick like Jaylen Warren is holding steady, Travis Etienne, guys like that. So, you feel okay with the floor that you have at the running, or Javonte Williams, for instance, like those late round guys that pop through. And then maybe Jefferson offers you at least some, boom potential from a wide receiver too, a flex spot.
Oh,
I'm okay with this.
He has JT,
Bijan, you don't need Derrick
and Aaron Jones, though. Bill is also ass. I started off as the conductor of the Bill train. Now I am never Bill. Yeah. No way.
No, like I said, I'm okay with that trade. I mean, it's fine.
Oh, Woods girl, don't come here giving Joe Zolo credit on a show where he's not even here. Stacked at running back because she listened to Joe Zolo and now just went berserk on running backs. And I'm sure your team is doing fantastic.
Running backs are all the rage. Again, for the 2nd season in a row, mind you.
Yeah. VV back
Maybe
at
those
us.
best ball bros need to learn something.
Parker Washington, Arande Gazden, Quentin Johnston as a flex start, Josh. I know you hate starting tight ends in the flex, but of this group and him not on the injury report, I would go Gazden in my flex.
No, I'm going Johnston. If they were calling him week to week, and he suddenly practiced, feels like something's coming. It feels
that happened
like
to somebody last week too, or last year too, and I got so pissed about it. Yeah, you're probably right.
Yeah, just give me QJ. I'm fine with that. It's a good matchup.
Yep. Andrea, Green Bay or the Dallas defense? We are anti-Dallas defense. It's Green Bay. It's the same sort of situation, except they don't even have a tough matchup. Green Bay actually, I think, because of their matchup, I think Green Bay is top 3 for me this week.
Yeah, and here's the thing: is like
they're my defense 5.
Where Green Bay may struggle is allowing rushing yards to the quarterback. Like most defenses struggle with that, right? Well, Dallas or the Giants aren't going to have that because Jackson Dart is likely out.
Yep, J-Mo ain't doing that.
Jameis Winston is not running the football, so they just have to get to the quarterback. Like Micah Parsons is going to have a field day on this. Green Bay's perfectly fine this week.
Yeah.
Here's the thing: you don't need to start a bad defense. Even if the matchup is good, they're still a bad defense.
Yep. Dallas will find a way to fuck it up. Trust us.
Yep.
Alex, new name. Welcome to the show. Team for the rest of the season. How do we feel about this team, Josh? Starting Drake May at quarterback. You win. Starting the Ohio State running backs, Travion Henderson and Quinshon Judkins. And Ohio State wide receiver, Jackson Smith and Jigba. Justin Jefferson, Trey McBride, Emeka Egbuka. You're a Ohio State fan, but I guess you have to be in fantasy right now. Solid bench. I'm not going to read the entire bench. I think this question got asked a few days ago. Maybe it's not a new name. Because they asked if there was any changes, and we talked about maybe making a change. But now I'm looking at this team, Josh. I don't think I'm making any changes.
I think we were talking like for this week, maybe subbing out, getting Woody Marks in there for Judkins. But I'm fine keeping this as is right now. I mean, they've already ruled out Ramondre, so Henderson's a start.
Yeah.
Judkins again.
Josh, it was the other way around. He had Hendy where it said Woody. I remember the question specifically.
Okay.
Marks and Judkins and Hendy on the bench, and we told him get Hendy into the lineup. I love this.
Gotcha. Okay.
You took our advice. Of course I love it.
I love it. Works for me.
All right, folks. I know there's a couple more questions. We're going to knock those out in just a moment. But before we do that, it is time to talk stream of the week. Pretty good week last week, at least for the actual streams. The 3 people I mentioned on the show, the people I mentioned in the article didn't do so well. Let's see if I can at least keep the show alive. Week 11 streams of the week, all available in about 50% of ESPN leagues. At quarterback, I'm going Aaron Rodgers. He gets the Cincinnati Bengals. While Rodgers has been boring as hell, you start everybody against the Bengals. They allow the 4th most points to quarterbacks on the season, and Aaron Rodgers just dropped 4 touchdowns on them back in week 7. At tight end, Colston Loveland against Minnesota. I am shocked the fantasy community did not scoop up Loveland and keep him from being available in this many leagues, but I'll take the win. Minnesota gives up the 4th most fantasy points to tight ends since week 5. And in that span, they've allowed 5 tight end touchdowns. I love Loveland to score this week. And on defense, I'm going to go with the Atlanta Falcons against the Panthers. I do not like a lot of streaming defenses this week, but I do like Atlanta. Rico Dowdle is going to be fine. Bryce Young is going to struggle. The Falcons held him to 121 yards back in week 3, and they've had an interception in 6 of 9 games this season. I think they can get some turnovers and sacks against the Carolina Panthers. Those are your week 11 streams of the week. Do you trust any of these folks this week? Let us know in the comments. Full article available tomorrow.
Love Loveland, huh?
Love Loveland. Not even in my notes. As I was saying it, I'm like, this sounds stupid, and I shouldn't say it, but I had to make sure I stayed under a minute. So we'll see how that goes when I'm cutting the short tomorrow, because I felt like I went long. Back to the chat. Mark Folkman, Jameis or Tua? I love that Jameis is already in a question. Josh, I slotted Jameis in as my QB 20. I do think Tua is still a better asset than him this week. I'm going Tua Tagovailoa against that Washington defense.
Yeah, Tua has Jalen Waddle. Jameis does not.
Yeah. George, welcome to the show. Better late than never. Gaston practice in full. Yes, we were talking about that. Are we playing him over Otten or Schultz? Josh, I'm not willing to move him ahead, and we had this question earlier in the show. I think we both said we're going Otten.
Yeah, I think Schultz gives you a good floor. Otten, again, without the big dogs in that wide receiver for Tampa, Otten's got Baker's trust. So, yeah, I'm going Otten this week. So it's okay to sit Gaston just to make sure the knee is okay. Is kind of what I'm getting at here.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally what I bitched about with Garrett Wilson, what I always bitch about with T. Higgins. Don't risk it in the first week. It's just not worth it. This is tough, Josh. So he has Jackson Dart, who he obviously doesn't have this week. He has Caleb Williams. But we love Joe Flacco, at least temporarily. Would you start Caleb against Minnesota this week or Flacco against Pittsburgh?
See, this is tough for me. If you feel that you need a win, go get Flacco.
Yeah.
And I think that's the biggest thing, because with Dart, his bye is week 14. Like, you're not sitting him, or you're not dropping him, obviously. But you know he's probably missing this week. Like, they're going to be cautious with this kid. That's why they've elevated Jameis. But if you drop Caleb, now you run the risk of losing your starting quarterback in a couple of weeks when Dart is on a bye.
Yep.
Because Flacco is going to get, replaced by Burrow.
And then you're looking for an even worse streaming option.
Correct. Yeah. So if you feel that this week is must win, and again, don't hear what I'm not saying. Every week is must win. I get it. But
yeah,
if you're sitting at 4-6, if you're 3-7, right? Like, that's must win. You need a guy this week and you need to shoot for ultimate upside. Go get Flacco. But if you're 5-5, I'm fine writing it out with Caleb.
Yeah.
Or better. I should say 5-5 or better.
Yeah. Ryan Green, would you trade Ladd and Javonta for Puka Nacua? He has Saquon and Jonathan Taylor and Woody Marks. His other wide receivers are Garrett Wilson and Marvin, who are both missing time now, and Garrett's going to miss a month. Besides that, he has Debo and Keenan. So he is struggling at wide receiver. The question is this, Josh. Is it worth giving up Javonte Williams, who you're only going to play this week because of the Jonathan Taylor bye? Is it worth giving up Javonte Williams to turn Ladd into Puka Nacua? And I think it probably is.
Yep. No analysis needed. You get the best player, and that's Puka.
You're 7-3, which means you're probably in no worse than 4th place. This is going to help get you into the playoffs, and you're going to have one of the best rosters in the playoffs. Yep. You make that move. Underdog props. Josh, do we still have the promo going on with Underdog?
Yep.
I haven't been putting that banner up at all. So if you want to knock that out for me real quick. We get I already forget who's at home in this game, Josh. Is it Drake May is at home against the New York Jets. The game takes place in New England. If you want to get in on the action, Underdog has pick'ems. They have little mini drafts you can do. We always talk about pick'ems. If you sign up using promo code WOFF, WOFF, stands for Women of Fantasy Football. For some of our newer guests, we have a partnership with Women of Fantasy Football. You get a free pick and a first-time deposit match up to $1,000 in bonus cash. Josh is 4-6 on the season. I am 5-5 on the season. Josh, who do you like as your underdog player prop for the Thursday night Jets at Patriots?
Yeah, I hate going lowers, but I'm going lower on Stephon Diggs at 53.5 receiving yards. Over his last 5 games, he's been under this mark in 4 of them. As I've mentioned this throughout the show, like Diggs is a safe floor play, and he has scored a touchdown in 3 straight games, which again has helped elevate him, and that's why he's the wide receiver 21 on the season. But Drake May, for a lot of young quarterbacks, he hasn't zeroed in on one option and said, all right, this is my guy, like the way that Josh Allen did with Diggs and the way that a lot of these other young guys do. Drake May spread the football around. There hasn't been one dominant player in this passing attack, and that's ultimately what has kept Stephon Diggs' overall receiving numbers down. He's only averaging about 10 yards per reception, and he's averaging about 5 catches per game. So kind of boils down to it, 5 for 50, right? Works perfect. That's why this mark is going lower for me.
Josh, I also went lower. This might be the first time in show history we are both picking lowers. Should tell you how we feel about this Thursday night matchup. I am saying Breece Hall lower than 59.5 rushing yards. Josh, there was a stat that you actually remembered, even though you were at the game, and that came up that Sean Tucker, of all people, was the first running back to cross 50 yards against 50 yards rushing against the New England Patriots this season. When you look at what Breece Hall has did, it's been very hit or miss. And he's obviously beat this number in each of the last 2 games, 133, 183. That was against Cincinnati. And I mean, I guess he did beat it against Cleveland, but that was against Cincinnati. And they were kind of trying to run the game away against Cleveland. Against Carolina, 38 yards. Against Denver, exactly 59 yards. And then when you look at the Denver, against the New England Patriots this week, as I just mentioned, Sean Tucker is the only running back to hit 50 yards against them, Josh. We're talking Bijan Robinson, 46 yards. Quinshon Judkins, 19 yards. You want to tell me you don't look at the Jets offense and the Cleveland offense as very similar offenses? The Tennessee running backs combined for 40 yards. The New Orleans running backs combined for 52. They held James Cook to 49. If they can hold those people under 50 yards, Josh, Breece Hall is the only player on this team you have to worry about. I don't think they're going to be able to have much trouble slowing him down.
All I heard from this is Sean Tucker is God. So,
which is basically true. So yeah, if you guys are not signed up with Underdog yet, use promo code WOFF. Get yourself some bonus picks. Let's finish out the show with some questions. Josh, Woods girl, would you start Brissett based on how he's been playing over Sam Darnold? Where do they fall in my rankings? I moved Darnold down quite a bit. I do have Brissett over Sam Darnold. Darnold has taken a strange step back and now has to go against that Rams defense.
You can throw on the Rams. The Rams front 7 is what will make this game interesting. Again, it's recency bias in my opinion. I know Brissett kind of had a down week, obviously, but Darnold only threw the ball 12 times. But he didn't have to throw because they ran the ball 46 because they
very good point.
Whitewashed the Cardinals. So
yeah.
No, I'm still going Darnold. I think he's got higher upside than Brissett, honestly.
Got offered Rico Dowdle and Michael Pittman for his CD Lamb. This is the Citizens question, by the way. Other running backs are RJ Harvey and Rashad White. So this person desperately needs running back. Josh, this is a situation where I think you have to make this trade. You can't go into the playoffs with RJ Harvey and Rashad White as your running backs.
Oh God, no, because Rashad White's going to get displaced here shortly. Yeah, I think this is kind of look, I don't love trading the best player, which is CeeDee Lamb, but you're getting a really good wide receiver in Michael Pittman, and you're getting a top 10 running back. And quite frankly, I think right now you need that top 10 running back when you're not losing as much from the receiving aspect going from CD to Pittman. Yeah, I'm okay making this.
If you're making the playoffs, you need these running backs playing that running back, plain and simple. Keenan, QJ has a shin injury pop up whenever a player has missed a game. When has a player ever missed a game because of their shin?
I mean, I'm sure it's happened. Yeah. These guys get banged up all the time. They don't wear pads on their shin. So
if it's going to happen to anybody, it's going to happen to QJ, it seems. This is true. And then Cash Money, who do we think for running back could they get if they were willing to trade Nico Collins?
That's tough because I don't know very many people that actually want to trade running backs. I mean, that's really what it boils down to for me.
I do think, Josh, though, we just kind of learned on that last trade. I think Rico Dowdle is certainly on the table.
I think Rico is on the table. I think Javonte Williams is on the table.
Yep.
I think it's one of those things where if you're not a big name that the average fantasy player knows, because they're just going to think, oh, it's a fluke. It's 10 weeks into the season. It's probably not a fluke at this point.
Yeah.
Just look at the stats. Look at the games. What does the games tell you? Look at the usage. That's what I'm looking at. So, like, if I could get a Javonte Williams for Nico Collins, I'll do it. If I could get Josh Jacobs, I'd do it. Like,
yeah, I don't think Josh Jacobs is on the table.
Yeah, I mean, you could probably get, well, maybe, but Travis Etienne plus for Nico, I would get that. I think there's enough running backs that you could, but I also think too that none of the running backs that you could get are going to match the kind of upside that Nico Collins possesses in a given week.
Yep. Keenan, I take offense to this question. Don't you just hate when someone outside the playoff picture holds their players hostage and doesn't want to trade? So, Josh, I am guilty of this in one of my home leagues, 2 years running now. And the problem for me is I don't realize the door has closed until it is slammed shut. And then I do not want to fuck up the playoffs. Now, I don't have a ton of great players in that league, but I do have Ashton Genty and Travion Henderson. And everybody is coming at me for them. And I have Drake May. How did I not make the playoffs? What is going on? I mean, honestly, it's my wide receivers suck. I invested in Brian Thomas Jr. and Ashton Genty. Took too long to get going.
In there.
But yeah, regardless though, Josh, people were coming at me for my running backs super late in the cycle. And I said, no, I have 2 wins right now. I'm not deciding the playoffs by giving my players away, plain and simple. That's just how I look at it.
Yeah, I mean, I look at this in 2 different ways. So one, if I know that I'm out of it, right? Like if I know that there is absolutely no shot that I can make the playoffs,
2-8,
I'm not making a trade just to make a trade. Like
the
only reason that I'm making a trade is if it legitimately gives me a chance that I can make the playoffs.
And out of fairness, I also, because there's nothing to play for in last place, I stopped putting waiver claims in.
You should.
I claim free agents after waivers have run, but I do not put waiver claims in just because, again, I'm trying to let these guys play it out, but I'm not going to give them my players.
Yeah, and that's the moral compass when it comes to playing in fantasy. Like it's not about, tilting the scales to try to help one person over another. It's all competition, right? Like, if I will make trades if I feel that it's going to give me an opportunity to win. I'm going to make waiver claims if it gives me an opportunity to win. But if I don't have anything on the line, I'm just going to ride out with what I got at this point.
Try to play spoiler.
Like I'll play spoiler more than anything. Like I'm not going to give away my best players, even if it's a fair trade, if it doesn't help me.
Yep. Yeah, and that's the kind of bullshit trades I was getting. I'm not saying you're doing that, Keenan. So I get there. I see both sides of it, but for me, it's protecting the integrity of the league.
Yep.
Super Squash, should they trade? I don't know if there's supposed to be a 4 here. Should they trade away Theo, Mason Taylor, and Njoku? No one's trading for any of your tight ends. If you're looking to acquire a tight end, I would go Theo Johnson out of this group, Josh.
Yeah, that's kind of where I would go. We've kind of been shitting on David Njoku again, not the person, just the situation.
Yeah, not a great situation.
I love David Njoku.
Yeah. That wraps up the Week 11 episode of No Punt Intended. Thank you for everybody who just rode with us for 90 minutes. We love answering your questions. Hopefully some of the segments helped. Hopefully Josh and I are able to get you into the playoffs. Club Fantasy will be live again tomorrow night for the Sneaky Flex. Josh, you'll have to remind me what time Sneaky Flex goes on these.
6:45 p.m.
6:45 p.m. The cutest 15 minutes of the best fantasy football knowledge. I'm telling you, these girls give you better information in 15 minutes than Josh and I have given you in 4.5 hours this week. They knock it out of the park. My DFS show drops on Friday morning, and every Saturday morning, Josh, Joe Zolo, and a guest answer your start-sit questions.
No, it's me, Gator.
You and Gator. That's right. I don't know why I said Joe. It hasn't been Joe this whole season. Josh, Gator, and a guest answer your start-sit questions for at least an hour all Saturday morning. No show sheet, just helping you guys get the win. Make sure you tune in. Always remember, defense wins championships. Offense wins fantasy football. We will see you next week as we prep for Week 12.